We got heat advisories on both coasts with heat records failing all across the place. We got heat records failing in Florida. We got them falling in the Pacific Northwest. All sorts of craziness. We got Hurricane Beryl coming our way and is due to make landfall today in Texas. How bad is it and what will it affect? We're going to talk about that. Also, McDonald's in Australia is cutting short its breakfast because of a shortage of eggs. And we got reports that city stores inside the United States are indeed getting better stock than the rural stores. We're going to talk about that today and more on today's Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade, and welcome. We cover things on this channel that you guys bring up, things that you're reporting in, that you're seeing everywhere. And we do thank you for your updates. If you have an update that you'd like to share with the group, please pass that along by putting a comment on this video or any video on this channel. Make sure you use the word update somewhere in there and give us some sort of geographical location. We do want to thank our sponsor, Genesis Gold Group. They help people get out of stocks and bonds and get into gold, silver, and platinum. If you have an IRA or 401k, and you might have a bit of a nest egg there, if you want to get into something stable like silver or gold, you might want to talk to Jonathan and his team. There'll be a link at the end of the video, and you can always find their phone number down in the description down below. Make sure you mention this channel if you do give them a call so they waive that setup fee. All right, so we got Hurricane Beryl. Now, it's going to hit Texas sometime today is generally the idea, and it's going to hit as a Category 1 hurricane. Now, it hit a Category 5, but it's hit some land masses along the way. It's been going up the Mexico coast, and it's going to cross illegally into the United States. No paperwork, but there is word that President Biden will probably give an amnesty as well. But a Category 1 is not anything close like a Category 5. So we expect to see a lot less damage, a lot less wind damage, but this is going to still dump a lot of rain on some of these places in Texas. Now, we're seeing ports closed across Texas, and this is a big deal. The largest oil exporting port in the U.S. is Corpus Christi, and that port is now at Condition Zulu. No vessels allowed in or out of the port without permission from the U.S. Coast Guard. Now we have other ports nearby that also are major oil exporters and importers. We got Houston, we got Galveston, we got Freeport, we got Texas City, and they are all under Condition Yankee, which means that there is a suspension of all inbound vessel traffic. Ships can deport, that's actually correct. They can deport themselves out of the port, but they cannot come into the port unless they have authorization from the Coast Guard. This is going to disrupt oil supplies. It shouldn't disrupt refineries too much. We don't expect refineries to shut down widespread across the Texas coast. That was initially one of the big concerns, was that if this is a strong enough storm, they would shut down those refineries, and that would put a hiccup in gas and diesel and jet fuel production. But that doesn't seem to be the case right now. They may have a very short shutdown, but we don't expect any damages to the refineries. Oil not leaving the United States is, well, that's somebody else's problem, isn't it? If you're one of those countries that's getting U.S. oil, it's a problem for you. We also have a major heat wave out west, primarily, but we also have a heat wave on the East Coast too. Extreme heat conditions are affecting wide swaths of the U.S. 132 million Americans over this weekend were under some sort of heat watch or heat advisory. Big deal. Records in the Pacific Northwest have been shattered by 5 or more degrees. So basically, Sunday, July 7th, Saturday, July 6th, the hottest temperature for that date, going back in history. Yeah, it's basically, we're seeing these records broken in a whole bunch of places. Does that really mean anything? Not really, except that it's hot. It's really, really hot, right? Because you have heat waves that happen at different times of the year, and then you have all the different stations all across the United States, right? And then you have people who have, let's just say, motivation to put a finger on the scale. So all these measurements out there, take with a degree of salt, because all of these meteorologists are funded by the federal government and motivated to push a certain agenda. But let's just say it's hot and everybody knows it. We got records in the Pacific Northwest being shattered. We have Arizona, California, and Nevada. Records are either being set or beaten, right? We have East Coast areas from New York down to Florida, also under heat advisories along the East Coast. Some places down in Florida are setting records, so that's something there too. So stay safe out there, stay cool, be thinking about how you can cool yourself down. Remember that you got water in your tap, and use that if necessary to cool yourself down. We haven't seen major issues with the power grid so far, but all of these heat waves are drawing more and more reserves out of the system. And so whenever they have to ramp up production, that means they have to defer on maintenance. They have to keep power plants operating that maybe should be shut down. They could be damaging equipment and such like that. And so it's just like you have a heat wave, and it doesn't cause blackouts maybe, but it may cause it so that there is more of a chance of blackouts later into the summer, right? Same thing at the winter. It can happen the same way. And so these problems kind of build up. So as we go deeper into the summer, we may see these problems stack up and eventually start to break some of the power grids, like in Texas, as well as California, West Coast. Now, the West Coast interconnect is big, so that does allow them to kind of spread the pain across the entire interconnect. That goes up into Canada too, so Canadian power plants can feed heat storms down in Arizona and California, right? So that is, we're less likely to see major West Coast interconnect problems, but we could see more localized problems as they shut people off in order to prevent wildfires. Let's hop over to McDonald's in Australia. They have cut breakfast short because of egg shortages. They are either canceling breakfast or cutting the hours of breakfast down. This is after the bird flu came through and they culled 1.2 million laying hens. We've been talking about egg shortages there in Australia quite a bit, and this is just the latest sign to show that this is a very serious problem. We're not just making stuff up. Even McDonald's is canceling breakfast because of this. WJ shares this. Nothing earth-shattering here, but I couldn't find any green onions in Walmart, nor in Myers in Northeast Ohio. No huge deal, but I like to use them in my pasta salad. Richard says, hey Steve, Rick from Arizona, Maricopa County. Make sure you count those things properly this time, okay? Fry's employee, which is a grocery store, right? Dairy. While stocking Simply Juice, I noticed a big change in color of strawberry lemonade. Read the fruit juice said 11% in the back stock, but the new stuff is 10%, comparable size. The 10% looked like a smoothie. Shrinkflation has no limits. That's right, they're pulling all the expensive ingredients out of our products. Just because the box doesn't get smaller doesn't mean that the quality hasn't gone down dramatically. And we're seeing that with canned goods that are loaded up with water now. It's harder and harder to find proper products that are well made. And you know that if they're sticking water in there, they're not going to hesitate to stick crickets or whatever else in there that's cheap. Lynn says, North Central West Virginia. My tomato plants are growing well. However, lovely little tomatoes, but sure won't make enough for canning. They're supposed to be canning tomatoes. Pumpkin seeds had to be replanted 3 times. This is West Virginia. Same with the winter squash. Meat is through the roof prices. Cheese is expensive. Milk slowly going up in price. Egg section has shrunk so that it looks like eggs are well stocked, but they've shrunk the section. The section for eggs is about 30% less than what it used to be. Almost no generics or store brands, only high-priced name brands. Good luck, people. This is a report from OL. Maryland update at Aldi. I haven't seen any cocoa powder in the baking aisle for the past few months. I look for it every time I'm in a store. And we're seeing that in a lot of places. Cocoa powder is getting really hard to find. If you like to make your own hot cocoa, like yours truly, because it's just super simple, and it uses powdered milk and cocoa powder. Do I happen to have any of that on hand? Why, surely I do. But I'd like to rotate my stock when I do that, right? Hot cocoa is tasty, and it tastes better when you make it yourself, I promise. Plus, cocoa actually is very good. It stores very well. And so does, instant milk and everything. Jenica says, upstate South Carolina, went to Food Lion to get some fresh veggies, and over 70% of what they had was already rotten. Some had gnats in it. Onions were mushy and lettuce was brown. Again, that's upstate South Carolina. J8, 2 days after the event, I guess. I talked to the manager at Walmart. He said some of the vendors stopped putting out their product. This means managers have to pull workers, himself included, from other areas to stock shelves. So if we're seeing issues at Walmart's, it's potentially because some of the vendors, like Pepsi or Lay's potato chips, aren't putting out their potato chips and that kind of thing. So maybe that might be what's happening. We'll have to see. 1709 Blondie says, you're either really old or that number means something completely different than a date. Northwest Connecticut, yogurt and large tubs, name brand in our major chains are about gone. 3 weeks in a row. No iceberg lettuce either. Eggs are over $3.50 for store brand per dozen. The healthy non-plastic eggs are $7 over for a dozen. Find your local farmers. Good advice. K. Page says, Kansas City. In my Sam's, there is no beef broth, and I've tried ordering online as well, and it's out of stock there as well. Flat Cap says, Birmingham, UK here. I just had a bottle of milk turn bad with zero smell, so this is a question for you guys. Has anyone else experienced this? I forgot I had a bottle in the fridge, and when I checked it, the usual way, right, quick sniff, it had no odor. I poured out a little to double check before I actually used it, and it had gone over, but absolutely no bad smell at all. By the way, I do have a sense of smell. No cough side effects. Is this an isolated incident? So if you haven't lost your sense of smell, which is always something that, it happens. Like even from a cold, that can sometimes happen. It's weird, but if you have a loss of taste, right? But anyone else have an issue with no bad smell in their milk, but it going bad on them? Or potentially just curdling? But let me know down in the comments down below. Make sure you use the word update, right? Nikki says, eggs and cottage cheese really doing a disappearing act big time here in Grand Haven, Michigan, at the Myers particularly. And we got Sonia here. Piedmont area, North Carolina, not far from the Virginia border. Shortages of fresh produce. Less selection in dairy, bread, and meat. My local Food Lion and Walmart have removed aisles, shortening many of the remaining rows. Went to Raleigh, North Carolina for a day out. Wegmans and several other stores fully stocked. So rural, no. Cities, yes. I went to Virginia Beach and noticed that the grocery stores there were well stocked, but less choice on the brands. It seems like the large cities are stocked with the rural areas not getting as much. Are you guys seeing the same thing? If you check a store that's near a city and one that's more rural. Let us know if that's something that you're seeing out there as well. All right, friends, thanks so much for joining us, and thank you for those of you sending in updates. If you want to get some more information from Genesis Gold, there's a link right there. You can reach out to them, have a conversation with them, and if it's a good fit, cool. If it's not, there's no obligation or anything like that. If you want to check out another video from his channel, there's one right up here. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you guys later. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report.